I'm thrilled to have Anibor Kragha, Executive Secretary of African Refiners and Distributors Association. I just wanted to start off by looking at the key barriers to investment in Africa's refining capacity. Could you share more about that?
And thank you for the question. I think a way to look at it, the first thing is investment is driven by regulations, okay? So investors want to be clear what regulations are going to govern their investments, especially in the investment horizon. So the primary thing is we need clarity and consistency of regulations to support not just refining investments, but also the support infrastructure to ensure that refined products can deliver to various parts of the continent. The second thing, of course, is finance. Financing is critical in the form that is needed, particularly from support from development finance institutions who can actually serve as first mover capital to attract private capital to execute those kind of projects.
And when you look at the local beneficiation of value, how can this be ensured?
Well, again, it comes down to investment. An investor is only going to invest in value addition, which is petrochemical and so on and so forth, if they're clear that one, there's a market, two, they're clear on the regulations, and three, the operations are commercial, no subsidies and so on and so forth. So across Africa, governments have to intervene in various forms to varying degrees, but to really drive these value addition beneficiation projects, you really have to have commercial conditions that attract the private sector to drive this in partnership. You can have public-private partnership, but at the end of the day, you have to have commercial pricing, commercial frameworks that encourage investment.
And when you look at the timeline of African producers becoming self-sufficient in refined petroleum products, what do you think that timeline would be?
That's a very interesting question. If I knew that timeline, I wouldn't actually be in my current job. I'd be predicting the future, making tons of money doing it. But the reality is, I think you need to take a step back and ask, what are the conditions necessary for this to happen? The first I go back to again is regulation. We need consistency of regulation. For example, ARDA has been working with the African Union for a couple of years on harmonized Pan-African specs, 10 ppm sulfur across the continent. Be interested to know, for example, we have 11 different grades of diesel, ranging from 10 ppm to 10,000 ppm. 12 different grades of gasoline, petrol, ranging from 10 ppm to 2,500 ppm. So ARDA has been trying to work with the African Union to say, can we have a single harmonized specification? When you have 10 ppm across Africa, suddenly it's attractive to have investments to drive to start to get to that point. So the first thing is we need consistent regulation. The next thing is, let's talk about the projects. Projects need to be a certain scale, and you also need to look at what are the refining projects, taking into account we are in the phase of energy transition. What projects do we have to do as part of an African downstream energy transition roadmap that ARDA is putting in place to actually deliver that? So all of the projects, the refining projects, decarbonization projects, and clean fuel projects. Second thing is, what are the storage and distribution projects? It's critical to know that you can't just refine. You have to deliver your products to the market. Where are the pipeline projects? Where are the storage projects? Where are the terminals? Where are the ports? How is that all going to be integrated? Okay. Last but not least, we believe that LPG for clean cooking, which is replacing biomass and charcoal with LPG, is one of the best near-term options to reduce our carbon footprint. Where are those projects? How we add engagement to that? So we need to have regulations that aggregate the projects in a way that are with backable conditions and clear scope, cost, and schedules so the investors can be clear on what they're going to do. Then the next thing is we have to have HSE as a license to operate in all of our operations. That forms the foundation for ESG, which I'm sure you've heard about. Yeah. You have to have that built into all of the projects we're doing. Then, of course, you have to ensure that you have the human capital to drive the project. People run businesses and not the other way around. Do we have the right people in the right jobs to deliver on these business plans, especially as we transition from current business to lower carbon opportunities? And then when you have all of that in place, the regulations are clear, the scope, cost, and schedule of the projects, whether it's refining, upgrade, specification project, whether storage and distribution projects with LPG are in place, you have ESG built into that, you have the human capital, then you have the financing call, and then you'll be able to ensure that. So it's putting all of these things together in a harmonized manner that ARDA is working on it. And for each of those things, ARDA has actually 7 different work groups where we have virtual sessions to all our members, and we use that as an avenue for sharing on best practice across our members. So we have a refining and specifications work group, we have a storage and distribution work group, we have an LPG work group, we have an HSC and quality work group, we have a human capital work group, a regulation work group, and a sustainable finance group. So to answer your question, when we line all of these things up, I have no doubt the market is there. We expect that we're going to have close to 180 million tons of petroleum products by 2040 in Africa. That's over 50% what we're doing now. So is there a market for it? Would it be great if it could be more big on the continent? Yes. But all those things have to line up so that we can deliver. I hope that's
incredible. That's incredible. And just my final question is, what do you think are the most pressing energy related challenges on the continent right now?
So I'll put that in context again, energy transition and all that. But I always like to say, in Africa right now, I mentioned all the different grades of fuel. We need cleaner fuels. If you look at Africa today, okay, 1 in 2 people born globally between now and 2040 is into that Africa. Our energy demand is going to grow 45%. That's an injection. So if we don't have a clear path to cleaner, lower sulfur fuels, we're going to have a public health disaster and a half. So we need to ensure we take care of that as part of energy transition. That's the first thing. Second thing is financing. I really think that we need to have a coordinated effort where we come up with our own unique, sustainable African energy transition plan, roadmap, and back that up with the finance plan. So that the financing shows up when the projects are meant to be executed, so that we can deliver on what we need for the continent and map that makes sense. I think those are the 2 most pressing things, from cleaner fuels for one, and of course, third one, which is part of cleaner fuels, is LPG for clean cook. I think when you go around to different parts of the continent and you look at what is happening, the lives lost, and so on and so forth, due to charcoal or respiratory issues and so on and so forth, I think that if we focus on LPG for clean cooking, cleaner fuels, and putting in place finance and frameworks to actually execute our business plan in line with our own new African energy transition plan, I think that constant with those.
That's fantastic. And just one more question. Are there any discussions this week that you're looking forward to at African Energy Week?
Yeah, I'm actually part of the OPEC Africa Roundtable. I'll tell that Bahama downstream guy, like said, the value addition beneficiation there. But I think that's critical because if we're going to have a robust intra-African oil and gas market, we have to engage in that regard. So it's also going to have the Secretary General of Apple, Dr. Omar Farouk Ibrahim, as well as key high-level ministers from across the continent. And there's going to be a discussion to talk about, well, what are your projections? What are you trying to do? Well, guess what? As you're planning to produce, we should be planning to refine. Well, how can we work together and have, for example, regional infrastructure projects? Not every country needs to have a refinery. Should we have one mega refinery for that? Should we have ports? How do we put regional pipeline in place to deliver all of that? And I'm also part of the downstream panel. I'm leading the keynote address at the downstream panel. I'm also on downstream panel, which is great because it's not just going to have the refiners like I think Dado Kibil SAR, so I'm just fighting here. He's here. Great, he's head of refining specifications, but it's also going to have Pinsel no one in the Africa in that, so I can ask him, show me the money. So I think with that and a couple of other sessions I've seen, I think it's going to be a very exciting meeting.
It's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.